Philosophy, William James believed, had made a catastrophic error. Not in one particular argument, not in one specific claim, but in its most basic method. For centuries, philosophers had been analyzing experience by taking it apart, reducing it to simpler elements, and then trying to reconstruct it from those elements. And in doing so, James argued, they had systematically destroyed the very thing they were trying to understand. James called his alternative radical empiricism, and the word radical is key. Ordinary empiricism, as developed by Locke, Berkeley, and Hume, was a major advance over the purely rationalist philosophies that preceded it. The empiricists insisted that knowledge comes from experience, not from pure reason. So far, so good. But what the British empiricists meant by experience was a curiously thin thing. Discrete, separate sensory impressions, like atoms, that the mind then combines into more complex ideas. The raw material of experience, for Hume, was a stream of disconnected impressions, red here, loud there, warm here, smooth there, that the mind associates and combines through habits of thought. James thought this was profoundly wrong. He observed, with characteristic attention to actual phenomenology, that experience never arrives as a stream of disconnected atomistic sensations. It arrives as a flowing, connected, relationally rich whole. What we actually experience includes not just the terms, the red, the loud, the warm, but the relations between them, the and, the but, the because, the after, the next to. The experience of a red ball rolling quickly across a smooth table is not 5 separate experiences that the mind then combines. It is one unified experience, in which the redness, the roundness, the rolling, and the quickness are all given together in a single relational whole. This matters enormously. If you analyze experience into separate atoms and then try to reconstruct it from those atoms, you inevitably fail, because what you have cut apart in the analysis is the relations, and the relations are not a secondary construction built from the atoms. They are given in experience just as directly as the atomic elements themselves. You have destroyed the original by analyzing it, and you cannot reassemble it from the pieces. James's radical empiricism demanded that philosophy take relations seriously as genuine features of experience, not as mental constructions imposed on otherwise unrelated data. This single move dissolves an enormous number of traditional philosophical puzzles. The problem of how we know that events are causally related, a famous puzzle since Hume showed that we never observe the causal relation, only the sequence of events, simply dissolves once you acknowledge that causal relations are given in direct experience, just as sequences are. James was also reacting against the idealist tradition, particularly the absolute idealism of Hegel and his British followers like F. H. Bradley, which had swung to the opposite extreme. Where the empiricists had fragmented experience into disconnected atoms, the idealists had merged everything into one absolute whole. For Bradley, the world of ordinary experience, with its separate objects, distinct persons, and contingent relations, was merely appearance, a distorted fragment of the one unified absolute reality. James found this equally unsatisfying. It explained the unity of experience by sacrificing its diversity, its particularity, its genuine multiplicity. James's radical empiricism tried to take both the unity and the multiplicity seriously. The world is genuinely plural, full of distinct things, separate events, individual persons. And it is also genuinely connected, woven together by relations that are as real as the things they relate. Both of these features of experience are given directly in experience itself. Philosophy does not need to choose between them. The contemporary relevance of this framework is significant. In philosophy of mind, the debate between reductionist and anti-reductionist approaches to consciousness recapitulates James's dispute with the classical empiricists. If you analyze consciousness into its functional components, information processing, neural correlates, behavioral dispositions, do you capture what consciousness actually is? James would say no. You have analyzed away precisely the feature of consciousness that makes it interesting, the felt quality, the what it is likeness, the immediate experimental richness that cannot be reduced to its functional substrate. In science, radical empiricism has implications for how we understand theoretical constructs. When we postulate unobservable entities, electrons, quarks, dark matter, are we describing reality or constructing useful fictions? James's answer, consistent with his broader pragmatism, is, if these constructs work, if they generate accurate predictions and extend our practical control over phenomena, they have a genuine claim to reality. But we should hold them with appropriate tentativeness, recognizing that reality always exceeds our current theoretical constructions of it. James was a radical in the original sense. He went to the root of things. And what he found at the root of experience was richer, more complex, and more interesting than anything the philosophical tradition had led him to expect. Subscribe to the Psychology of William James and keep going to the root together.